3 as the kind of agenda for the system, for the presentation. So what I was going to do was to really start off with kind of the intro to it, and talk about some of the use cases and definitions. So a questionnaire is basically any set of pre-planned questions. The preview is a function we're going to look at, so that when you build your questionnaire, you can preview it. You can't fill it out and save it, but you can preview what somebody would see it as. You can break your questionnaire down into tabs or sections, and the reason for that is you may want to save separate sections, and also you may want to decide whether somebody has to fill in all sections, as you would if you were doing a field marketing exercise, or not all sections. For example, if there may be some sections which you would do on a health and safety survey, but if the building that you're surveying doesn't have a car park, you don't do the car park section. If the point of sale that you are supplying to a particular outlet for your brand that you're representing, if the shop manager doesn't let you in and doesn't want the point of sale, then clearly that whole section you can drop. But the main idea of sections is that you can click on the different sections and you can do them as a human being on that site in the order in which you want to do them. So if you walk into a retail space or a residential space or a sports environment, whatever it is, and you're doing a health and safety survey or any other data collection, you can come across a swimming pool or a car park as you walk around a corner and go straight to that tab. So that's the reason for sections. You can also have a printed view. So some people will be going into an area with no internet connection, and they may just prefer to just go and print the thing out. So you can take all the sections one after another, print them, and it'll print them just like a thing that you used to old school carry around on a clipboard. The venue can be linked to any survey you do. So if you're a field marketing person and you're going to do 8 shops today to see what the competitive prices are, the stock before and after, and so on, that would be the site or the shop or the venue, or some people call it the visit. Likewise, if you're doing a health and safety survey, or you're doing a baseline before you do a festival or an event, that would be the actual venue that's linked to it. And in many of the reports that it can produce, you can print a picture of the venue, and you can print all of the pictures in the document that you create afterwards. Obviously, you have to have some measure of success when you complete your report. In an e-learning environment, which we'll be discussing on the 20th of September, on day 19, that could be that it creates a qualification or says, sorry, you failed, have a try again, if you allow that person to try again. But in most cases, it says we've completed all of the information, and there will be a process within the company to actually approve that information or produce a document or whatever it is that's at the end of that success. Now, some of these surveys can be launched by just sticking a link on an email. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to introduce Questionnaire Builder to you. You'll notice that in the contents of the manual, one of the first thing is just creating your first, getting started and just creating your first questionnaire. So many of you will already have done this, but what I'll do is I'll just go to the demo system, and is that it? Yes, it is. And I'll just show you how to create your first questionnaire. To get into Questionnaire Builder, you go to this little icon here with the Questionnaire Builder icon. It says questionnaires if you expand that menu. And it may say something different. It might say reports in your business, or it might say, I don't know, Fragenbogen module, or a very, very long German word or a French word or whatever. But basically, this is the Questionnaire Builder. I just get over this weird Microsoft bug here that always seems to happen. And I just bring that down into a field size, a screen size rather. So this here is Questionnaire Builder. And it starts exactly as you would expect with the first question. So if we just create a new questionnaire, so if I create a first question and then create a questionnaire, so I'm just going to start with something like, how are you today? So let's start with the easy ones. Now I've got a choice of answers here. So it's not going to be a yes, no, it's not going to be a number. It could be text, so you could just ask them to fill out some text. And it could be, obviously, it could be a set of limited values. So it could be that you put in some values which say, I'm fine, I'm not feeling too good, I'm okay, thank you, or whatever. So you'll be familiar with those. The advantage of text is that you get people to be able to explain in human words what's going on. Um, and the advantage of limited values, of course, is great for quantitative analysis. So if you're doing a staff survey and you want to know what they think of their team leader and what they think of your company and the communications in the company and so on, um, then um, then obviously limited values is really good. You know, quite good, not satisfactory. I'd recommend it to everybody, whatever it is. Um, Nevertheless, it's always very important if somebody has said, I'm unhappy or I'm very unhappy or whatever, I'm super satisfied, I think it's absolutely wonderful. There's all sorts of reasons why you then follow that up with a text question. So that if they've said they're unhappy, you can find out why it is so that you can fix it. Now, very importantly, you can upload files and photos. And the importance of that is whether you're doing any sort of survey or field marketing collection, it's very important to be able to upload a photo of what you're looking at. So if you're doing a health and safety survey and you've seen that there's newspapers up and down the stairs, which could be a fire hazard in this tower block, or you've seen that there's a water leak by the electrical systems in the basement, those kinds of things, you need to take a photo so that, and you probably create an action plan as well. Um, and then you may have a number range and you might have multiple values. And the idea of multiple values would be, this would be where you have tick boxes. So you could tick one or more of those multiple values or none. The idea of limited values is where you get radio buttons. So of the limited values, you can only pick one. So if you had t-shirt sizes, you would say, let's say small, medium, large, and extra large, and somebody can't be both small and extra large. So you just allow them to pick one, and you get one of those round radio buttons. The reason you'd use the square tick boxes, 3 or 4 square boxes, if you said to somebody, what do you like for breakfast? Shreddies, help me out here, bananas, fruit, orange juice. They could tick as many as they wanted. So that's the difference between those. Numbers is obvious. A number range means you only let them do a range between, let's say, 10 and 20. You know, in the context of that question, 100 would be daft. 1 would be daft. You just want them to do 10 and 20. And then adding in a date and a time, obvious why you might want to use that. It could be what time did I visit or whatever. Because that, of course, could be different to the time they complete the actual survey. You might complete the survey in the evening, but you might have visited the previous morning. So those are the types of answers. I'm just going to leave this as text now to keep it simple. And I'm going to save that question. And I'm also going to save the questionnaire. And it's going to say, what's it going to call me? And it's going to be day 8 example, which is not very imaginative. You can imagine the use cases for these questionnaires. It could be that you are visiting a venue and you're looking at health and safety. You're saying, is there detritus around? We've been doing a lot recently on film sets and other places for, where there's still high footfall, but obviously not festivals or football matches for a long time, where people wish to know. They do a baseline survey of all of the areas and where they need guards to let people in, you know, COVID marshals and so on. And then every day in every section, they will do a survey, and the survey will include, were the golf buggies, you know, they move people around film sets on golf buggies, were all the golf buggies cleaned down? Were the Range Rovers cleaned down? Were all the handles of the what do they call those those big caravans they live, the stars go in. The big one is somebody going around the whole time making sure there's hand wash. So there's lots and lots of things you do as a baseline audit. You then agree the policies, the procedures, and the standards that are going to run on site. And then after that, obviously, you have the whole area of the are all these things being done? was there actually a trained guard on site? Did the guard have a list of who has passed their COVID training and who hasn't? Who's done a test and who hasn't? And and you'll be aware if you've been involved in one of those things that how badly that can go wrong. But unless you have some electronic way of doing it efficiently and saying yes, no, 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 you can't produce the reports which will be able to get do action plans. And obviously, where things say yes, it might say a paragraph saying we checked the gardens and the two guards were trained. There were enough guards there. At every inspection we went to, there was never a time when the guard wasn't available. They've got enough guards there, so if one needs to take a natural break, the other one could take over, or not. And if not, then those things go on an action plan or they raise an alert, and the system can do that kind of thing. Some of the people I know listening today are doing a similar thing, but they're in shops and they're working for a brand, and the shop needs to know that the brand is well presented. It might be that you're actually putting point of sale out there, taking before and after photos using this photo picture and so on. So that's the basics of doing one question. If you then want to add another question, you've got question 1 here, question 2, and let's add a third question. Then what you can do is you can say, so let's say, how are you today? And let's say this answer, if it equals good, then you can say jump to question 3. So I probably should have said limited values. So I'll show you how to do limited values now. So if I say, actually, I probably want multiple limited values. Yeah. So good and bad. Let's keep it simple. No, I'm going to go for okay as well. Looks like I've got bad in there, so I need to say spell that correctly. You can edit these lists. There we go. Okay, so I've now got 3 options, and I'm going to say if it's bad, then actually if it's good, then jump to question 3. So you can put branching in here. Jump to 3. So in other words, this is required, this is required, and this is required, but this becomes not required, this question. So what was the problem? How can we help, or whatever? And you might have text there. So we've looked at a type of question which is limited values, where they have to pick one of those but not multiple of them. That now we've looked at branching logic. So if the word good, I hope good is a word in there, yes it is. If the word good is used, then you jump to that. You'll notice also you could jump to question 16. You could set a question to be required, and so on with this thing. So that takes care of branching. And then this question here could get on with something completely different. I don't know. Do the hours suit you? Assuming it was a staffing survey. So hopefully the way that you build questionnaire builders will be familiar to you. Some of you will have used things like MailChimp, iAudit, and so on and so forth. So you'll be familiar with the way that you can create the questions and save them as a shot. Now, when we do the more advanced one tomorrow, we're going to be looking at this beast here called Report Builder. And the idea is that this can create a document. So as you do your survey, your health and safety survey, it can mail merge representative paragraphs into a document. And to give you an example, we'll look at this in more detail tomorrow. You might go to a building and question 1 is there asbestos in this building? And you might say yes, that any asbestos survey will have yes, no, and maybe to cover your back. So if you put in yes, then there will be a paragraph which will say we definitely found asbestos because of the age of the building. We checked further, we found asbestos, and we immediately left site and have contacted the asbestos removal people. And we've informed the owner of the site that or the landlord that they have to get everybody off site as well. If, on the other hand, it's no, because then it substitutes a paragraph to say it's highly unlikely it's asbestos because of the age and build of the building. It's highly unlikely that asbestos would have been used in its construction, so we feel that it's safe to carry on and to do the survey. And then there's like a maybe section where we say there could be a risk of asbestos and so on. So each of those paragraphs can be put in by this tab here, manage report text, which is where you pick a particular question. You say if it's no, put in this paragraph. If it's yes, put in that paragraph. And I won't be going through it today, but I'll be explaining how that works as part of tomorrow's section. So the next question is, how do you get it out to people? Well, there's 4 or 5 different ways to get it out to people. One of the ways is that you can link it to a shift. Or before somebody's, one of the most common uses for this is somebody does a demonstration shift at an electronics shop, and they talk about they put in the stock beforehand and the stock at the end of the day and their sales. And they may also be asked to collect competitive pricing, show pictures of the merchandise on the shelves as they arrive and at lunchtime and before they leave to make sure it's all neat. If you're doing a health and safety survey, clearly the questions would be different, but you would be going to that site for a number of hours until you finished it. If you were a mystery shopper, you'd have a bunch of questions about was the shop busy and were the staff polite and whatever. So all of these are chargeable items for customers if your business wishes to expand the data collection that you do in order to be able to have it. And I hope that just having this facility on your system allows you to expand into lots of different areas of business. The next thing you can do, apart from putting it on the staff portal for a shift, one of the easiest ways to launch a survey, if you wanted to do a staff satisfaction survey, is to launch it using a mail shot. So if I've saved this one here, and I've called this the day 8 example, I probably should have said day 8 survey. Let's call it the day 8 survey. So save as day 8 survey. And okay. So now you may remember when doing Mailing Manager that when you create a newsletter, you can say dear, or we tend to use hi because in case you don't actually have the first name of the person, and you can put in first name there. Just going to make this a tad bigger so that you can see. So if I give that a nice Helvetica and let's say 6 so that you can see it. There we go. So then you can say, so we now make a hyperlink of that, and we would basically add that just here by, in the same way as you'd make a hyperlink like using this chain icon here, we'd add a questionnaire. Please save. And that's day 8 survey. So we now say questionnaire like this, and you'll notice that you've got a complete dialogue on what questionnaires you would wish people to fill out. So just imagine for a moment you're doing a staff survey and you're not asking the daft questions I've put in, but ones that are relevant to your business. So first of all, what's the staff survey for? Is it just this mailing? Is it just to go out to staff to ask them what they think, or are they getting a qualification? So it could be that you've sent them some stuff to learn about the particular brand they're working for, and the client has asked you to test their knowledge. This has even happened I didn't realize, but there is a chain of pubs that I know one of our clients has, where they had a specific set of procedures, which would be very different to if that member of was working for another chain of pubs in the centre of Manchester. So it could be that it's a qualification. It could be just going out to your staff. There's customers of ours have made all sorts of clever uses of this. One of my favorites is somebody had an amnesty on all of the kit and t-shirts and hats and goodness knows what else, high-vis equipment that their company had out there, and they basically sent it out as an amnesty. And then there's another way you can do it, which is you can launch a questionnaire on a tick box before somebody gets into the staff portal. So it's like a condition of getting into the staff portal, a bit like agreeing to your terms and conditions. So I'm going to say nothing, just this mailing. I'm going to tick anonymous, and I'm going to put the description in here, paste and paste And this would be really a staff survey, wouldn't it? Staff survey. So this is the link text. So in other words, that's the text that we want to have as a link here. You can then put a header on here and say, thank you very much indeed for, or this would be staff satisfaction survey. And you'd probably be able to spell it, which I can't. You'd tart it up with a nice font as ever, bold maybe, and you'd probably say it's about 5 or something like that. And then here, there'd be either you put in a URL, if you've got a standard URL for saying thank you to staff for filling in the survey, which some people have on their websites, you could create one in your website, which has links to personnel policies and FAQs for staff and so on. Or you can just say, thanks very much for filling out, thanks for filling out, and so on and so forth. So once you've done all that, you just hit save. Good point. It's asking me which and which questionnaire hit save. So then that link becomes translated, and you would almost certainly have that in a different color. You'll notice in mine I'm using this kind of light blue, but you would decide on which color you wanted to use. I'm probably going to make this a slightly nicer gray because it's a bit nicer than black. So that can then be mailed to your list. Now, because I've got one that I did earlier, I'm going to close that up. I think I've saved it. I'm going to close that up and I'm going to grab this one. So this is right. This is a quiz that Charlotte has done, but we've also done week 1 satisfaction. So here is one tab, and it's like, is lunchtime a good time for you to do these sessions? What other time would you prefer? Is the length of the sessions okay? So we did all of that, and then I created this mail shot, which I create every day to send out to you. And I don't know if you could be kind enough to check your spam folders, but basically you should have received this. It certainly went out to basically I can check the list, but it certainly went out to. I'm not sure if it did go to you, Pam.
Yes, because I wasn't on any week 1 training, was I? This is week 2.
Yeah. Do you know, I've got the list here, but I don't want to show personal details. But if I was to go to the reports of who, so basically there's the questionnaire link, and what I'll do is I'll show you how it arrived in my box, and I'll just have a quick, so I can see who's clicked on things here, and I could also see who's viewed things. So if I look at the clicks, for example, I can see 3 people have clicked on something or other, probably the manual. Let's have a look. There we go. So this person has picked on the QB manual, and has this person, yeah. Did the newsletter, do you know, I think we've got another newsletter one coming up. When we did the CRM thing, I'm not sure if I made this, but when we do the newsletter thing, I'll explain what viewing is. There is a whole discussion on the moment on whether it's an invasion of privacy or not. And I think most of us are working in a B2B environment, so I'd say no. And most of the staff you'll be mailing contractually should agree to this. But there is a lot of discussion on whether spy pixels, as the BBC calls them, should be allowed. I'm a very strong believer they should, because if you send out educational material and nobody's read it, it's quite an interesting thing. But the clicks are the key thing. You can see 3 people have clicked the manual, but this viewing thing is whether you download the pictures. So if I could just demonstrate, here we go. So this is the one, this thing here would be the one that's just come through. And so I would have sent this and said hi, and you'll notice that there's no, we'll show this in Newsletter Builder. This is testing if you don't have a first name. We don't want the email to stop. So I've said send if blank. And that's why we don't use the word dear in mail shots anymore. On the other hand, the one that's gone to my real mail, I do have a first name in there. So it would say, hi, Rick. So I'd highly advise you to do that. So I've got a Zoom link, which you would have clicked, I guess, to get here. An anonymous survey. And this is the anonymous survey that I did earlier. And I basically the thing I just showed you in the survey builder, and because I filled in others, but I haven't filled in this particular one. So if I say yes, it's okay. Breakfast, prefer it at breakfast. 25 minutes is okay. It's too fast for me. Mixed with planetaries, yes. So I just click these at random. Testing. How's your lunch? Great. So I now submit that, and it says thank you for filling out the survey, and that would be in our live system. Where, do you remember I said you could put in what you wanted for when they fill out the survey? You could put links in here or anything, and at the top, this thing here, week 1 survey, how can we improve? That would have been, if I just quickly whip over here to newsletters. Remember, when I go here and I go to the newsletter here, you can see the text. There we are, QS link 96. Anonymous survey, that came up just here. If I just go back to this, can you see it says anonymous survey? If I'd said elephant survey, it would have said elephant survey there. And then I've said it's anonymous, so you can fill it in, and we don't know who. Oh, I didn't click anonymous. So I need to hit save now. That should update automatically. And the rest of it was, if I go back to questionnaire 96, week 1 survey, how can we improve? And thanks for filling out this survey, and all of that stuff was in here. So there's week 1 survey, how can we improve? That's at the top. You could put a logo in there, anything is HTML, and that's the pop-up I got at the end. So to summarize, we've been able to quickly create a survey, send it out to people. Could be 100 staff, could be 1,000 staff, and you can store those all of those surveys against all of your staff to see how they like working for you, what areas they have for improvement, and so on.
So even when we tick anonymous, we can still see people's answers against their names?
No, you can still see in the report who has answered, who has,
but not who's given what answers.
No, and so I can show you that here. I may have ticked anonymous late there, but if I just show you, if we go into the actual reports in our system, so if I go back to the main system here and go to reports and just refresh this here, you'll notice that this thing here, the satisfaction thing, has been filled out. Now, did you notice I forgot to tick anonymous? So if I just do this, it may be that I got there too late. But if I do this and open the file, if there are any names, oh yeah. So I forgot to tick anonymous. So luckily, it's only our test people indoors that have, in-house. So there's the bloke with no first name, and so basically you can see here, yeah. So it certainly wasn't our intention to send it out not anonymous. It was just a mistake on my part. But you can send out an anonymous one, but obviously for a qualification for somebody who's doing e-learning, which we'll do on the 20th, you would not send it out anonymous, because you want to know if Bill thoroughly understands his health and safety, or if Jane was actually listening during the induction training where you explained the history of the company and what to say if a customer says, you seem to be a jolly good whatever, could you work for us, kind of thing. If one of your staff wins an introduction to another company, what the policy is and stuff on that. But you can see all of the text that I typed in here has come out and so on. So zipping back to the, do have a quick look through this. There's some examples at the back as ever, and there's lots of use cases. So there's field marketing, health and safety audit, security audit, supply chain audit is another one. It's amazing how big supply chain audit is now, because people need to ask questions about, are we dealing with an actual manufacturer in China or India, or are they just basically a middleman who's creaming off the top? And then once you've actually got out there to look at them, you need to be able to check that the staff come up to your company brand and so on and so forth. Obviously, branch audits going into different shops and saying, are they up to scratch? Staff assessments, opinion surveys we just did, all sorts of scientific data collection, and obviously client satisfaction surveys. I think there was a point where people were ISO 9000 out, um, and it may be that your clients won't fill out a satisfaction survey. It takes too long. I bounce a lot away, but there we have some other things that people can do. Some of you will have received, for example, after our support items are closed, that we send out an email with like a smiley face and a frowny face to see whether you were satisfied with how we dealt with that job. We've not got round to it yet, but we're planning to do it for ISO 27001 as an example, and then offer that free to our customers, because we have quite a few customers that don't take computer security seriously, and we want to make it easy for people to work within those quality, Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus and ISO 9001. Brill. Well, look, thank you very much indeed for your time, everybody.